how many downloads of Jim and Bill It's Another Day podcast?
Today, the podcast show has fetched 400 million downloads since its start, and an average of 350,000 downloads per episode, about 3.9 million downloads per week.
Well, hello there. It's another day. I'm Jim Harrington.
And I am Bill Knight, right side coffee in my hand because I got to have my morning dose before I start yakking.
Perfect way to start the day. Jim and Bill's right side coffee. It's a medium blend roast, also a medium decaf roast. We have both of them in case you can't have that high test stuff. A perfect blend of the finest coffee beans, and it's available right now in our gift shop, which is rightsideshop.com, rightsideshop.com. The reviews are in. People like it, and you will too. All you have to do, all you need is a little credit card. Go to rightsideshop.com, and you'll see, amongst other things, we have hats and cups and other in T-shirts and sweatshirts, but we also have the Right Side coffee. You're going to love it. And a portion of the proceeds, by the way, we have to tell you, go to this show here. You help support us by buying the Right Side coffee. We're not asking, by the way, just for like a GoFundMe gift or whatever. We're asking you to buy a product, enjoy the product, and in doing so, help us as we start to promote the program down the road. Get beyond that 4 million a week mark, you know?
Yeah, I mean, no, he's 4 million.
Yeah, 4 million. Well, it's a good crowd. It's a good crowd, and we're glad you're there. Trust me, we are very glad you're there. But we're never satisfied. We want more. We want more of the Rogan style audience. You know, what do you think?
Rogan style, yeah. No hair, but we got a lot to say.
Yes, right. Hey, listen, we have Juan and Jose and the border crossers who are very, very nervous right now. Things are happening at the border. We'll talk about in a little while, and it's making them sweat. You know, but they still have their guitars and. They're going to sing our jingle. Juan, Jose, and the border crossers. Guys?
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee. Anyway, my friend, lots and lots of things to talk about this morning. You see where President Trump signed an executive order shutting down all physical entry of migrants at the border. By the way, none of this migrant stuff anymore. Now they're called, I think they're called illegals. I think that they've changed it. I could be wrong, but they've the government tried to make it politically correct under Biden. They softened the word. They were migrants. They were just coming across for a better life, without any papers and didn't tell anybody. They just ran across the border.
They did a lot of things during the Biden administration. Heck, Eric Adams claiming that. During the administration, when he bitched about the illegal alien problem there, the Biden administration came back and said, just be a good Democrat. Yeah. Just be a good Democrat. Shh.
You know, folks, for my friends on the left who listen occasionally just to punish themselves, I have a question to ask you. If you left your door unlocked and people started coming into your house unannounced and uninvited, would you have a problem with that, or would you call the police, or would you invite them for dinner and have them stay upstairs in the guest room or something? What would you do? Odds are, if people came into your house uninvited, you would call the police. But yet you have no problem with people coming into our country, which is essentially the same thing. It's our home, and you have no problem with them just coming across, getting our stuff, and staying where they want to stay, and doing what they want to do, and by the way, expecting stuff. They came here expecting stuff. People aren't stupid. The word was passed down the line that if you go to the United States, they'll give you money and housing, and you'll get benefits, maybe a little Social Security that you never paid for. How's that? That sound good? You want a job? There's probably a job somewhere for you. You don't want to work? That's not a problem, too. You can be on the dole, just getting handouts, because they have plenty of those up there. Anyway, interesting stuff going on right now. And Trump is staying true to his word.
Is he not? Yeah, he is.
Did your image just do a 360? I have to ask, did you just flip the image 360, or is somebody between you and I messing around?
I'm trying to get the darn thing to look right because right now everything is everywhere on my screen, and I don't know. But
I mean, everything is everywhere. It sounds like an old rock song.
Yeah,
but,
everything is everything, man. Like cool. No, there's something going on with my connection on this side. Isn't it always on my side?
Yeah. Well, they know who the troublemaker is in this duo.
Oh, is that what it is? Well, thanks for pointing that out, sir. I mean, it's nice of you.
Hey, Mark Wayne Mullen, he was on with Aaron Burnett. CNN's having a hard time. As a matter of fact, I think it's today they're going to lay off 400 people.
Yeah. I mean, pretty soon they won't have anybody to turn on the light switch. You have to do it all by yourself.
How about the cameras? Never mind the light switches. I mean, it is a television network. Pretty soon they're going to be pulling the plug. But anyway,
well, what they're going to do is say you got a phone, good. You're going to do
run your own camera.
Run your own camera. Just link your phone.
Do your show like it's a selfie. Yeah. Mark Wayne Mullen was talking with Aaron Burnett yesterday. He saw this one.
President Biden changed all this. Remember the 37 murderers that he commuted their sentences? Remember 2 of them, one that he pardoned, the one that he pardoned killed 2 FBI agents. Another one literally beat an officer to death with a hammer. And another one literally tied up a woman who had accused him of rape, tied her up in duct tape, put a center block around her, and threw her over a bridge live. And so you remember that the violence that he pardoned, and I'm just saying you got to compare both of them, Aaron. If you're going to cover the story, cover both stories.
Okay. She didn't want to talk anymore. But the reason why I played this is she wasn't alone yesterday in her attack. The narrative at CNN yesterday was, what if these January 6ers that Trump pardoned go out and commit a crime? What if they end up being violent? By the way, most of the people who were involved with January 6th were basically regular people who got caught up in the moment, maybe, but they weren't. They weren't violent people per se. But they're trying to sell that narrative.
Well, sure they are. But let me ask you a question. You were improperly incarcerated, for 4, 5, 6 years, and not 6 years, but let's say 3 or 4 years. Would you not be a little bit angry about that if you did nothing wrong to begin with, and now you get out? There could be some that would just sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to get even. Not saying that's going to happen, but I'm just saying if they do, you brought it on, not them, because, there's even an investigation now that's going to happen on January 6th, what really happened. And that's good for Republicans and Democrats. Let's get to the bottom of it.
No matter what happens, the president didn't cause it. You pardon somebody, you're saying, okay, you're free to be a normal citizen again. If you can't go out there and perform like a normal citizen, if you go out there and you become violent that's not on the president. But he wasn't alone, by the way, yesterday. Jim Acosta, who in my opinion, I'm amazed he's still working at CNN. They're trying to change their image. Here they are laying off 400 of their people because their ratings are in the tank. And they keep some of the biggest fatheads in broadcasting on their staff. Jim Acosta was talking with Tim Burchett. Tim Burchett's a representative about Trump pardons, and it started to get testy. Listen.
This is not Fox, Congressman. You can't just spin a tail and pull the wool over people's eyes. Yeah. This is CNN. This is the news. We're asking you to come on and tell the truth.
And that's why more people are watching the Cartoon Network SpongeBob reruns right now, Jim. Look, I left the White House during a riot. My life was threatened. My life has been threatened within the last few weeks. Yet there's no coverage of that. And you all continue this narrative of attacking Trump. You just can't stand the fact that he won and that America spoke.
Congressman,
and that your view is very diminished.
That's not the case at all.
And your view is very diminished.
So it didn't end there. The ever disgusting Jim Acosta, the amateur Jim. See, it doesn't take a great broadcasting genius to be rude, and Acosta is rude. All right, He continued to try to nail Burchett, but Burchett was having nothing of it. Listen.
And I just want to ask you, if any of these people who were released from prison, if any of them commit crimes in the future, should Donald Trump take personal responsibility for that?
No more than Joe Biden should take personal responsibility for the 14 million people, for Laken Riley losing her life because he didn't have enough guts to enforce
I'm not
the
talking
law
about
and
Joe
back
Biden.
Americans.
If Joe
Well, you
Biden pardons
should be.
people
You
and they
are.
reoffend, he's obviously responsible for that.
See? So they're trying desperately to pin something where there's nothing that can be pinned, you know. They're getting on everybody's case about the pardons that Trump gave because he promised these pardons, and yet what they're not talking about is Joe Biden gave out 8,000 pardons. You know, I mean, here Trump gives out 1,500 pardons to January 6ers, and they're trying to make it a real issue out of it. And Joe Biden gave out, what, 4 times that? Over 4 times that? That's ridiculous.
They're trying to create a chain of responsibility, you know, for thee and not for me. But you know what? If you're going to go with that chain of responsibility idea, you know, the news was encouraging certain things that Biden did. So does that not make them also compliant with the decision that he did? And if it blows up in his face because somebody he pardoned goes out and does wrong, and they said it was a good thing, are they not compliant in that too? If you're going with a chain of responsibility, you know, I mean, you could take that so far that it's stupid, which it's stupid right now.
Well, I think that this is a horse that won't run, as they would say, on the part of the media. But they're hitting it. They're hitting it real hard anyway. They want it to run. They want this narrative to work. The left is desperate right now. The other thing we're going to talk about in just a second is Pete Hegseth. They're trying to drag him down.
Well, we're
Big
down
time.
to 3 votes because they came up with this thing. And again, they said, well, you know, his former wife, he beat her and all this stuff, you know, or abused her, okay? And it was from a sister-in-law that says that.
Former sister.
But the wife, but the wife's going, that never happened.
Right.
No. But it's a smear thing that they're throwing out there. They'll take anybody that says anything except the source that, you know, the real person that could say yay or nay, it did or didn't happen, said it didn't happen. There is no story, but the
you
left
remember
is
what
gonna make
Nancy
it a story.
Pelosi said about wrap-up smears.
Down hospitals and the rest of it. So they don't want them to see that contrast, so they focus on something else. And it's a diversionary tactic. It's a self-fulfilling prophecy. You demonize, and then we call it the wrap-up smear. If you want to talk politics, call it the wrap-up smear. You smear somebody with falsehoods and all the rest, and then you merchandise it. And then you write it, and if they see it's reported in the press that this, and this, so they have that validation that the press reported the smear, and then it's called the wrap-up smear. Now I'm going to merchandise the press's report on the smear that we made. And it's a tactic, and it's self-evident.
She's almost proud of it. It's called the wrap-up smear. What you do is you create a lie. That's what it is, a lie. You create a lie. You put it out there. The media, and you do it as like a source that didn't want to be named, an unnamed source said this. You know, that's how you put it out there. The media writes about it. Ooh, Pete Hegseth, he may have abused his wife. So says his sister-in-law, right? And once it's out there, you come back, the person who actually started the ball, the politician, and you comment about it. It's a cycle. It's a vicious cycle of lies that they create intentionally so the dumb public will, Pete Hegseth beat his what? No. The real vicious viper here is the politician who started the lie.
Yeah, but it's like a circle, like a whirlpool going down the drain.
Yeah.
You get caught up in it, and it sucks you down and flushes you away. And there was no truth to it to begin with, but because they targeted you and they created that spinning swamp, you're stuck in it, and it's hard to come through. I mean, what is it? I know Mitchie is in on the crew that might sit there, well, there's a reason not to vote for him. Well, what is Mitch's concern. This guy should be out of office. So what does he care about our future? I care about it, but what is his agenda? But you got Lisa Murkowski and Susan Collins that may sit there and say, well, there's an allegation. There's no proof, but there's an allegation. Now, mind you,
there's no proof. Mind you, an allegation. They gleefully and joyfully voted for Pete Buttigieg. They gleefully and joyfully voted for Alejandro Mayorkas. Alejandro Mayorkas, can you believe that? Yeah, he's fine. No problem there. Voted for Lloyd Austin. Anthony Blinken, no problem. They had no problem with that, but they're making an issue. Their own people are making an issue about Pete Hegseth. Come on. These are swamp dwellers. These are the people that President Trump is looking to get rid of. Now, he's already done it with Mitch McConnell. He's finished. He's done. He's toast. I think this is his last term. He's already announced it. But he's going to primary Murkowski. And don't you think that won't have an effect if all of a sudden Trump's going up and supporting the guy running against her in Alaska? That'll be big time. And Collins probably, too.
They all need to go. And you know what? The sad thing is, they put themselves in a position to where, we're going to sit there and see what we can do to get them out of there. That also opens up the door that's a seat that could go the way of the Fagawi, but it's doing us no good as it is right now anyway. With them being rhinos, forget it. I'd rather know the enemy that I'm facing than have somebody that's a turncoat inside.
Yeah, well, I think that they're talking about, I guess, Radcliffe's nomination comes up for a vote first, and then Hegseth. And I think Radcliffe may come up today.
Yeah. What I'm worried about is they're going to do this in the wee hours of the morning tomorrow night or Saturday morning. Are enough people going to be there? I think they got it down to right now where J.D. Vance will be the deciding vote if it comes to that.
Yeah, and if that happens, I think that, Hegseth will get in by the skin of his teeth, which shouldn't be the case. It shouldn't be the case.
Shouldn't be the case, but the Democrats don't realize they lost the election. They now think it's their civic duty to sit there and derail everything about Trump and any policy he's got. Take the birthing right thing. They're going, well, look at all the people that were born here and their parents weren't from here. Well, that birthing right, if you read the thing, takes place 30 days from the 20th. So February 19th, it's a going forward thing. It's not a retroactive thing, but that's not what the media will tell you. They go, whoa, well, if that happens, or now that it's happened, look at all of, they're lying to you. They're giving you a half truth.
Yeah. AOC is really upset about, if you're born in America, you're a citizen. And that wasn't, the purpose of that was not to just let anybody come across the border, be born here, and be a citizen. It was. It had to do with the slaves who were brought here and had their children here. It was something that concerned the Civil War. They weren't thinking about illegals coming across our southern border having children.
You're right. It was the rights of the slaves born here. The children. So
AOC is really ticked off. So AOC goes on the internet yesterday and says this.
And one of the most simple things that we can do is just not comply. Today, the Trump administration, and also last night, the Trump administration signed a bunch of illegal executive orders. For example, Donald Trump tried to sign an executive order to end birthright citizenship in this country, which is part of the Constitution. It is day one already trying to shred the foundational documents of American society and try to end birthright citizenship, which basically, as we know, if you are born in the United States, you are a United States citizen. That remains, that is the law, that is the Constitution. And he just tried to sign a piece of paper saying trying to say no. We don't have to listen to him. It's illegal. We don't have to treat this seriously. It's a joke. And that's not to say that what they're trying to do isn't serious. It is serious. But we should not consent in advance.
You got to love the left, especially people like AOC. They waive the Constitution when it's convenient, when it's convenient for them.
Didn't they want rid of it for a while?
Oh, I mean, they would ignore it at the drop of a hat if it benefited them. But when they think they can use it as a tool, they waive it like patriots. Oh, it's in the Constitution. A lot of these things Trump has done with an executive order was done intentionally, knowing that they'd be challenged, knowing that he wanted them challenged.
Yeah, and I think she summed it up, though, in the fact that it's in the Constitution. It wasn't there from the beginning.
Right. Well, he also expects these people to challenge the stuff that it's already happening. From the moment he signed it on paper, they started filing complaints.
Well, they already knew, going into, they knew exactly what he was going to do because it was pretty well telegraphed. Here's what I'm going to do. This is my agenda. So their attorneys were able to get together and say, okay, we're going to do this. We're going to do this. Here's how we're going to challenge it. So the minute he was sworn in, before he even signed the executive orders, they were marching them in like, boxcars on a train. They were just, here they come.
Yeah.
One after the other.
Well, it never ends. We seem to be the left seems to be fighting for these people who are strangers in our country. By the way, I think in Boston alone yesterday they found 300 migrants.
There
criminals.
was a raid done on that, and they got a bunch of them. So I have the story somewhere.
I just thought it was interesting that the one that they highlighted was in that sanctuary city, Boston. In the sanctuary state, they went up there, grabbed 300 of them right off the street, and back they go.
Targeting MS-13 gang members, murder suspects, and a Haitian gang member with 18 prior convictions. Now, the interesting thing, and they got over 300, but the interesting thing is, and Democrats ought to pay attention to this, because you were included in this little hate rant too. But one of the Haitians defiantly told cameras, I ain't going back to Haiti. Now, he delivered that outburst and said, F Trump and Biden forever.
Yeah,
so, in
F
other words,
Trump and Biden forever. Yeah.
So, it's not about Trump. It's about Dems and everybody. They're here to tear us up. And I'm sorry, but you should, pay attention to that little line right there. They're here for a different thing than you think.
You want to admit. You wonder about the people that are in this, not just this country, but the migrants who are going to other countries too, like Germany. Germany's having a big problem with migrants. Oh, so is England, for that matter. England, I think the number one name in the nurseries in England was Mohammed for the first time. I mean, the whole demographic in England is being changed. I can't imagine that. A country with tradition, with centuries of tradition and culture, all of a sudden, in one fell swoop, they've thrown it away. They've just, we don't need it anymore. And the people in England are just letting it happen? For my friends in England who are listening, would you please explain to me how you can do that? I know we have our problems over here, but we're trying to fix them. We're not sitting around idly letting it happen. We got Trump back in office. We think things are going to change for the better. But this guy you have as your prime minister right now, come on. What he's destroying your country.
Going back to AOC, she's part of the radical left, and even the semi-mainstream or a little bit to the left, lefty will sit there and go, yeah, she's the far end, but all of a sudden she's getting some power and she's using her bully platform out there. She doesn't like America. She hates America. She wants to make this a big socialist country.
She's a fraud from the get-go. She talked about being from the streets of New York. She grew up in Westchester County.
Yeah.
If you're familiar with New York, Westchester County is like where the rich people live. Do you know what I'm saying? It's the rich suburb of New York. She didn't come from nothing. And they talk about her being a bartender. If she was a bartender, it was just she knew what she was doing. You know, it was an interim job. She probably didn't need it if she was from Westchester County.
Everybody gets a job as a kid. You can be in a rich family, but your first job might be at McDonald's. You know, it doesn't mean that you're Joe Common. It just means, you got into the system and, you got to where you wanted to get. But it sounds good, he's one of us. No, they're not.
A couple of things I want to play before I forget. A couple of pieces. This, again, going back to the pardons. Trump was on with Sean Hannity yesterday on an interview, and he talked about personal pardons. Listen.
Joe Biden ran and said he would never do preemptive pardons. It was an issue that came up when you were leaving in your first time.
He heard that I was going to do it. I didn't want to do it. I was given the option. They said, sir, would you like to pardon everybody, including yourself? I said, I'm not going to pardon anybody. We didn't do anything wrong. And we had people that suffered. They're incredible patriots. We had people that suffered. You had Bannon put in jail. You had Peter Navarro put in jail. You had people that suffered. And far worse than that, they've lost their fortunes. They've lost their nest egg, paying it to lawyers. And those people, and people said, and they wouldn't have even taken, most of those people, they wouldn't have even taken a pardon. This guy went around giving everybody pardons. And the funny thing, maybe the sad thing, is he didn't give himself a pardon. And if you look at it, it all had to do with him.
It all had to do with him. Is that a precursor? Is that a signal to what's to come? He didn't give himself a pardon. If I were Joe right now, I'd be a little concerned. That last comment, maybe I should have.
Well, I don't know. He didn't sound venomous there, but you don't know. He put it out there, and I think, it's put out.
How was he going to say it? And he didn't give himself a pardon.
Yeah, but he's going to get one now. Well, you're not going to say that. I think, time will tell on that. And, it depends on what Joe does. Is Joe going away quietly into the sunset, or does something else come out that's more evident on Joe than just, another link in the chain of destruction that he's done?
Trump was, they had said Trump was going to give himself pardons in 2020. And Biden was asked about it by Jake Tapper.
President Trump is reportedly considering a wave of preemptive pardons for his adult children and for Rudy Giuliani. He's also floated the idea in private conversations, according to our reporting, of possibly pardoning himself, which he insists he has the power to do, though that has never been litigated. Does this concern you? All these preemptive pardons?
Well, it concerns me in terms of what kind of precedent it sets and how the rest of the world looks at us as a nation of laws and justice. Look, our Justice Department is going to operate independently on those issues, that how to respond to any of that. I'm not going to be telling them what they have to do and don't have to do.
What?
I'm not going to be saying go prosecute A, B, or C. I'm not going to be telling them. That's not the role. It's not my Justice Department. It's the People's Justice Department. So the persons I pick to run that department are going to be people who are going to have the independent capacity to decide who gets prosecuted and who doesn't. Now, in terms of the pardons, you're not going to see in our administration that kind of approach to pardons.
Oh, gag me.
So he lied about that.
Yeah, of course he did. Yeah, absolutely.
Or, is the Biden of now the Biden of the past? Did his mental decline start happening before he got in, after he got in?
I think it started before, but you can hear he was much clearer in 2020 than in 2024 he was mumbling.
He was kind of doing that, and he started he came in 2020, but I think by 2021 he was pretty well cooked. But he was cooked before he ran, because when he was running, you didn't see him do rallies, and if he did do a rally, there was nobody there. He was always campaigning in his basement, and that was pre-pandemic. So how do you figure this guy won the election? But, we have to take, their word for it, because nothing to see here.
Right.
Well, apparently we're going to find out about that now.
You see, we're in Germany, an Afghan migrant who's living in an asylum center, that's a migrant center in Germany, was arrested on Wednesday for stabbing to death a 2-year-old child and 41-year-old man on a playground. 2 others were injured in the knife attack. 28-year-old Inamullah O, that's what he calls himself, Inamullah O, had a history of violent attacks and was in Germany despite having an order to leave the country. Local police said there was no evidence of the man's radical views so far. Oh, gag me. Workers at the nursery, or what we call daycare center here in America, noticed the man acting suspiciously and decided to move the children inside. It was at that moment that the Afghan migrant, the illegal in Germany, attacked the children, killing a 2-year-old and then killing a 41-year-old man who attempted to rescue the children. The attack took place in a park in Bavaria. The point is this: it wouldn't have happened at all if responsible people were making decisions in Germany. The same kind of idiots that we had during the last administration, apparently their counterparts are over in Germany doing the same thing. Unbelievable. A little 2-year-old infant.
Yeah, we've got a generation of people out there that were groomed to be these wacky liberal, people that they are, and they allowed stuff like this, and they don't get it because that's what they were brought up.
Yeah. Well, I blame colleges. The thing is this:
it's the education system.
They go through the education system and they get their degrees. So right off the bat, they feel superior to the common person. I have a degree in whatever, I went to Harvard. Oh my God, he went to Harvard? Yes, he went to Harvard. Oh my goodness gracious. They already have this superiority attitude, right? And then they go out there into the world, haven't got a clue what really is going on, but they have an opinion because they went to Harvard. And at Harvard, we're all very opinionated. We have opinions about opinions. It's amazing. That's what they do in these schools.
The media changed too. When I got in, probably when you got in, it didn't have to do with if you have a degree in radio. You went in, you started at the lowest position, you learned and worked your way up, but you had to have certain natural talent and skill.
Yeah, it's called apprenticeship.
Yeah, you were an apprentice and you worked your way up and we did fine. But somebody came along and said, well, we want people that have degrees. And the old joke used to be, you go to college and learn about broadcasting, you're going to meet the guy teaching the class that couldn't cut it in the field.
In my 50s, I was encouraged to go get my degree, finish my degree, because I had left college to go into radio, much to the chagrin of my dad, who was a graduate from Brown, and education meant everything to him. And here I was leaving it all behind to play some rock and roll on the radio. But although he forgave me because I had a pretty decent career, and he was amazed. My God, you did all that? Where are you working now? My God, they hired you there? Anyway, I went back in my 50s and got my degree, my bachelor's degree at an accredited college. I got it on the wall over there. And you know what it's meant in my life? With all it's filled the hole, maybe, okay, I could do it. But that's it. It didn't get me a better job. It didn't do anything to my life. But yet we have an industry, an educational industry, that that almost makes it a requirement for these kids to get out of the high school and get right into college and get that debt built up. I mean, you get that educational degree and $50,000 or $60,000 in debt. Start your life in debt. It truly is. And by the way, Bill, most of the people that I've met in my life who've been very successful are people who maybe didn't get the degree, were people who went on did something else, actors and singers and radio people who have gone in a different path. And by the way, 95% of those people could have easily have gotten a degree. They just, they just didn't want to waste their time. They had things to do in their life, and they went in another direction and had success. Now, there are some careers that made it impossible for people to do that career without having a degree or a master's degree. My wife is a great teacher. She would have been a great teacher if she'd left high school and gone right out there and started to teach because she had a love for teaching. But yet, in order for her to teach at the levels that she taught at in her career, she had to have degrees, and she got the degrees, and it facilitated that. But my mother-in-law didn't have a degree, but she would have been a great teacher because it was something that was part of her,
the degree is accreditation that you can do what you intend to do. But you're right. There are people out there that have the skills, have the knowledge, because that's just who and what they are. But,
Bill, out in the Old West, they would go out with the wagon trains and women would teach the children the lessons. They would become the school mom, but they weren't really teachers. They were somebody who would pick up the textbooks or whatever they had. In many cases, they taught them from the Bible because that was the only textbook they had, and they taught them to read and to think and to ask questions and to count, things like that. A lot of people were educated. It goes back to even things like lawyers. Lawyers, for the longest time, you could go from high school. You could go to a apprentice in a law firm for 5 years, some states 3 years, and then you could take a test and be a lawyer. And that would be it. You didn't have to go to college. You didn't have to go to law school. And this didn't happen. This didn't end like 100 years ago. This ended like in the 30s and the 40s back in some states.
I think there's still a couple of states, but California used to be one of them where, to be a lawyer, 1 year in college and you can go and take your bar. I don't think you can do that now.
No.
But I think it's Minnesota or one of the states up that way still has that rule. 1 year, that's it. You can go to law school and, you take and pass that bar, you are a lawyer in that state.
So I think I'd like to think that we take a serious look at our educational system and we start encouraging people to study in different areas. Like the people that I know who make money are people like electricians and plumbers, people that you really need. I mean, you have a problem in your sink or your toilet. You don't try to. I mean, some of us try to fix it ourselves, but sometimes it doesn't work out all that well. The fact of the matter is, you need somebody who knows how to do it, and that's where. And those people don't go many times to college.
A good buddy of mine is principal out of school, and he went from one school to another and stuff like that, and he makes a good clip of money. But they don't teach the kids this. But we were sitting down having a brew one day, and he goes, "Yeah, the truth is, there are kids that just they're not cut out to sit there and be the collegiate kids, but that doesn't mean they go on." He goes, "Because quite honestly," and he mentioned the plumbing thing. He goes, "I got a problem with the pipes. I got to call one of the kids that I might have called a dummy in school, but he's a plumber and he knows what he's doing. He knows how to fix those pipes, and I'm paying him, a good sizable amount. The guy's making $75, $125 an hour just to come in and fix, plus the parts. He's going, this guy is, making what I make actually a little bit more." So
I mean, some of these guys, when I was a kid, a lot of kids were interested in cars. They'd spend their time out working on their cars. And, people would criticize them. Oh, he's souping up that piece of junk he's got in his driveway. All of a sudden, these guys end up leaving, and they go on with their lives, and you find out that they're highly trained mechanics making a decent buck. Maybe they have their own service station, their own business, and it's because they had developed a skill. In the meantime, when I was a kid, they encouraged you to get a liberal arts degree, bachelor's degree, liberal arts, which made you an expert in absolutely nothing. Nothing. I mean, they even look down their nose at people who got business degrees. A business degree taught you about business. You could go out and maybe get a job, but liberal arts, well, you were a well-rounded, well-educated person who had no skill. Nothing.
Yeah. If you're going to get into that or get into anything in sales, go ahead and do a marketing degree. At least have a clue as to what you got to do to succeed. But there are people that are even natural born salespeople and marketing people. And we used to use the old analogy. We wanted somebody that knew how to sell an ice cube to an Eskimo. If that person walked through the door, they didn't need a thing hanging on the wall. They just needed our blessing to say, go sell.
In case getting back to the situation in this country I look at the clock on the wall. It's racing us, Bill. It's racing us. We time doesn't stand still for anybody. 1,500 troops were sent to the U.S. border to stop Now, I heard somebody, it was a sheriff, and he was a well-meaning guy being interviewed on TV saying, well, they're there to support us, the sheriffs and the Border Patrol people. They can't get really involved. I think then he used the term posse comitatus. And from what I understand, posse comitatus, and I could be wrong, was put together by Rutherford B. Hayes, his administration. I guess that was back in 1870s, thereabouts. And what it said essentially was the military troops couldn't be sent into cities to quell the civilians. Okay? You couldn't use your military to push back on the people in the country. But it didn't say, based upon my interpretation, it didn't say that you couldn't put the military at a border and keep invaders, people who weren't citizens, from entering your country. So I think that sheriff is wrong. I could be wrong, and if I am, I'll let you know. But from what I understand, posse comitatus doesn't apply here. You're not keeping citizens. You're not squelching the citizens of your country. You are keeping invaders from invading your country. And that's the purpose of the military in the first place.
Right. So in other words, they are a human border wall.
Yes.
Until we can build a wall. And still we're going to have people there to play that role, to sit there and say, you're trying to illegally cross over, stop now, or I will hurt you.
I also heard yesterday, I think Tucker Carlson said it's not 1,500. It's more like 10,000 troops. Maybe 1,500 is the first batch. So,
well, let me ask you this. I mean, has a war been declared by the previous administration on our country with an invading force of illegals?
Well, the previous administration, no, it wasn't declared.
No, but is it
allowed
akin to a war?
We're
allowing it to happen.
Yeah, you've allowed the invasion of our country. What Trump is, if anyone has declared a war, it's Trump against the people who are invading our country illegally. He's closing it. He literally said, he ordered yesterday that no migrants are allowed to enter this country under any circumstances from this point on. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. No more people.
Well, the left is going to go out there and cry, well, who's going to fill all those jobs that nobody else wants to do?
You heard that Reverend at the prayer service?
Oh, man. He's talking about the vote stealing. He wants
the woman. I'm talking about the woman who was
her. Yeah,
the woman at the National Cathedral. President Trump and his family and the administration are at this service yesterday.
Right, yeah.
And she gets up there and figures it's her. She's a left lunatic. she gets up there and figures it's the perfect opportunity to make sure that the Trump knows what she thinks about the border situation and the situation in our country. She talks about there are a lot of lesbian, gay, bisexual people in the Democratic Party and the Republican Party and independents, and they're frightened right now, frightened for their lives, she said. And this, in the meantime, President Trump and Melania and J.D. Vance and his wife are sitting there in the front row, and a lot of people said they should have gotten up and just left, said we're done, but they sat like gentlemen and dignified people and listened to this nonsense, who, by the way, she's been interviewed many times picketing against Trump. She doesn't like Trump. So, and somebody in Trump said, his circle should have said, Mr. President, we should bypass that. We shouldn't go to that church. That's one part of the routine we should pass on because she's going to embarrass you. But somebody didn't do their job.
Well, or they did do their job, because I'm just saying, we said in this administration, he better make sure that he's got, no plants in there. But I guarantee there are people that said, oh, no, I'm a Trump supporter. And then they do something like that.
Right.
Whoever suggested that, I would say, yeah, come here, I need to talk to you.
Yep.
Hey, do you have any job prospects? Oh, you don't? Well, you better get some.
Yeah.
Because there's no room for you in this administration.
Yeah. You embarrassed the president on the first day.
I wouldn't even give him that luxury. I would just say, you're not, you just don't fit in. But I wish you well. Bye-bye. Don't let that door hit you. You know where.
Yeah.
See ya.
You see where President Trump has wasted no time. He called on President Putin to make a deal with the Ukraine. No more lives should be lost. He wants to get that peace negotiations started between the Ukraine and Russia. Now, the Ukraine is saying, we're hearing Volodymyr Zelensky say, the land that the Russians think they've taken, we will never allow it to be considered theirs. Well, it was considered theirs for hundreds of years. The people who live in the parts that are now occupied by Russia, they're Russians. They may have been part of the Ukraine technically, but they talk Russian, they speak Russian, their lifestyle is Russian. I'm talking about the border areas that were occupied by Russia right off the bat. But the Ukraine, the Volodymyr, he doesn't want to end the war because the gravy train will end. His importance in the world will dissipate. He may have to explain where all the money went when the dust settles. Right.
Well, he wants to be a NATO nation. And,
right.
But he's not even a legitimate president anymore. So why don't we do an election there and see what happens? Well, that's true.
People are saying right now, what do you mean he's not a legitimate? Well, his term of office ended, 6 months ago?
Yeah. So let's go ahead and just say ceasefire. Let's see where this goes, because let's put it this way. This is a sloppy war. Now, we've been in it. There have been more Russian soldiers killed than Ukrainian soldiers. All right. That's just the fact. But, if you're going to sit there and put your young men and women out on the battlefield, it's a numbers game. And at some point in time, Russia finally wins it, no matter how bloody and messy it is. It is a numbers game, and they will win it in that accord. It's a nasty war. So the best thing to do is let's put a ceasefire to it. Let's get a new leader in there, and we don't have to manipulate anything. We should stay out of it. Just make sure it's legit. And that, I bet you the people would sit there and say, we just want to go home. We want to be back to what we were, not what is. You can't be happy with what's going on.
Volodymyr Zelensky, he shut down the churches in Ukraine. A lot of people don't know that, but the church, the Ukrainian Orthodox Church, shut down because they wanted peace. Mm-hmm. They didn't want the war to continue. So his answer was, No more church services. That's it. We're going to shutter the doors, and that's it. So,
what happens to Zelensky? Well, you know what? I understand he's got a talent with the piano. Maybe he should go back to do that in nightclubs.
Well, he has a house in Miami too, from what I understand. So he may end up going back to Miami.
I hope not. But yeah, he's not a citizen, so he can't really be anything here. So.
Another part of the world to look at, up in Canada, our neighbors to the north, there's a guy named Pierre Poilievre. I believe that's I could pronounce that right. It's Poilievre, I believe. I could be wrong, but
that's good enough for me.
My basic high school French seems to have not failed me, so I think that's right. He was talking about. He was being interviewed about genders on television. Poilievre is, in many ways, been considered the Trump of the North. He's conservative, and he just doesn't take any nonsense. He's an interesting character to listen to. Listen.
First day on the job, President Trump signed an executive order, the U.S. government only recognizing two genders, male, female. They're unchangeable. If elected as prime minister, is that something that you're going to kind of walk in line with, or what are your feelings on that executive order?
Well, I don't know. Do you have any other genders that you'd like to name?
Me personally?
Yes.
I'm just asking more so if you're in line with what he is saying. Do you agree with what he's saying? Is that something that you would be lockstep with if elected as prime minister?
Well, I'm not aware of any other genders than men and women. I mean, if you have any other that you want me to consider, you're welcome to tell me right now.
Well, there's personally, I am a man. As people who say cis man. There are people there who, they say they're gender neutral. Well, you are a man, yes. There are people there who say they're gender neutral. Yeah, they say they're gender neutral. They're a trans person. Is that something that you would recognize here? Whereas in the States, at least with their U.S. government, the way they're seeing it, there's only two.
I'm only aware of two, but I mean, if you come up with another list, then you're welcome to do that. But I'm aware of two, and as far as I'm concerned, we should have a government that just minds its own damn business and leaves people alone.
I like that guy, Pierre Poilievre.
He answered it from the get-go.
Oh, yeah. You got any others you want to add to the list? Well, I personally am a guy. Now, if you're wondering, is this the only thing he's ever done that's baffled the Canadian press? No. Actually, there's a bit of audio, I'm going to play it now, that he did about a year and a half ago. He's standing in the middle of an apple orchard, all right? And while he's being interviewed, he's biting into and chewing an apple in the interview. And this person who is interviewing him figures he got him cornered. He got him alone in the orchard, right? He was going to get his pound of flesh, professionally as a reporter. Mm-hmm. So listen to how it went.
On the topic, I mean, in terms of your sort of strategy currently, you're obviously taking the populist pathway.
What does that mean?
Well, appealing to people's more emotional levels, I would guess. I mean, certainly you tap very strong ideological language quite frequently.
Like what?
Left wing, this and that, right wing. I mean, it's that type of ideological thing.
I never really talk about left or right.
Anyways,
I don't really believe in that.
Okay, a lot of people would say that you're simply taking a page out of the Donald Trump book.
Which people would say that?
Well, I'm sure a great many Canadians, but
like who?
I don't know who, but
well, you're the one who asked the question, so you must know somebody.
Okay, I'm sure there's some out there, but anyways, the point of this question is, I mean, why should Canadians trust you with their vote, given not just a sort of ideological inclination in terms of taking the page out of Donald Trump's book, but
what are you
also
talking about? What page? What page? Can you give me a page? Give me the page. You keep saying
in terms of turning things quite dramatically in terms of Trudeau and the left wing and all of this. I mean, you make quite a it's quite a play that you make on it. So I'm
not sure. I don't know what your question is.
Then forget that. Why should Canadians trust you with their vote?
Common sense. Okay. Common sense for a change. We're going to make common sense common in this country. We don't have any common sense in the current government. The guy prints $600 billion, grows our money supply by 32% in 3 years. That's growing the money 8 times faster than the economy. No wonder we have the worst inflation in 4 decades. I'm going to cap spending, cut waste, so that we can balance the budget and bring down inflation and interest rates. You want to be able to pay your mortgage again? You want to be able to afford rent? Then you have to vote for Pierre Poilievre, because I'm the only one with a common sense plan that will bring back the buying power of your paycheck.
Guy's great. Pierre Poilievre. That's how he pronounces it. And he is very reminiscent of a version of a Trump kind of guy.
Regular. Yeah, but he doesn't want to be compared. He's his own man, and he shut down that reporter. The reporter didn't know how to back out of that corner that he was in. And Pierre's not going to be held down to any claim. Just I'm a common sense guy. Yeah, there's questions you could ask him, but he's just going to throw back, whoa, what? So he's got his focus, and he's not going to give in to anything, and that's what you got to realize. So you move on with your questions, because his answer was an answer.
Yeah.
That's all there is to it. You can't shape him or mold him.
Remember that name, Pierre Poilievre, or whatever, however he pronounces it. He is going to be somebody who we're all going to know his name, I think, in the not-too-distant future. Because he's, by the way, a serious candidate to be the next prime minister, taking the job that is currently held by Fidel Castro's son, Justin Trudeau. So, interesting thing also, under the Biden administration, they would fly just about anything on their flagpoles. They would, you had an embassy somewhere, you want to fly your flag, the other country's flag, you want a Black Lives Matter flag, you want to put a LGBTQ flag on it. We'll put anything on it. I'm surprised they didn't rent the space, Well, Trump has stopped that. If it's an American government building, that's an American government flagpole. It carries one flag, and that's the American flag, which has been the tradition just about since our inception, with brief interludes brought on by people like Obama and Biden. So he did that policy, I believe, yesterday. And
about damn time.
You hear about Pope Francis? Pope Francis was scolding Trump on his border policy that he's just instituted about sending the migrants back to their home country. Mm-hmm. And all the while he's scolding Trump, he's not referring at all to the fact that he has just gone along with a new policy of the Vatican to remove migrants from the Vatican. I didn't even know people were going to the Vatican for refuge, but I guess there have been some that figure, well, if I can't get refuge in the Vatican, where can I get it? Well, you can't get refuge in the Vatican. You will be sent home. The guy's a hypocrite. Look, and I'm a Catholic, practicing Catholic, and I believe in Mass, and I believe in the tenets of the faith. That being said, I think this guy is not. The guy who's running the church right now is a wolf in sheep's clothing. He's more socialist than Catholic, and that's unfortunate. But they permeate. They get themselves into these positions. The deep state does it. You may say, "What are you talking about, Jim? He's the Pope." Well, I'll tell you what I'm talking about. A little aside here. In my life, in all of my life, the only way you became a pope was when a pope died. When the pope died, then they would have their group get together with the different cardinals and go into a room and lock the door, and they'd just argue and debate, and finally they would come to a consensus and you'd have a new pope. That's how it worked for centuries. until about 20 years ago. And that's when Pope Francis comes along, right? They figure, well, Benedict is far too conservative. Benedict is a problem. We got to get rid of him. He may last for a while. We got to get rid of him now. He's interfering with the whole deep state movement. So what do? They decide to make him a Pope Emeritus. That's right. We're going to retire this guy. We're going to put Benedict out to pasture. We can't kill him, so we got to retire him. We'll send him up to a nice little place up north. He'll have all the joys and benefits of a good retirement, but he just won't be Pope anymore. Who will we put in? We'll put in somebody who is like-minded. There's a guy down in Argentina who is a socialist. He's a Jesuit. Of course, he's a Jesuit. We'll make him the Pope. We'll put him in there. He'll come up there, and he'll be more in line with politics than with religion. Well, that works for me, and that's what they did. They picked a pope. This guy, Francis, he was appointed, not anointed. And so I only make that point. Go ahead, Bill. You have. I could go on. No,
I'm just. I'm listening to them pick a pope for politics. But I look at the lady pastor the other day and what she did to Vance, Trump, and Melania and whatnot. And I listened to the Pope Emeritus, and his soiree into politics. And I would only say one thing to them. It's an old cry, but what would Jesus do? Well, glad you asked that question. He would stay out of politics. You see, Jesus decided, if he ever did, it would be very rare. He was more concerned about man and putting man ahead of his life than he was about politics.
Well, what did he say? He said, "Render unto Caesar what is Caesar's, and to God what is God's." Meaning, keep the separation. If Caesar needs to be taxed and paid his taxes, you take care of that. But there's a separation between church and state. Some of these people, by the way, Bill, I think you mentioned this yesterday. Maybe you did. Maybe it was somebody else. That the IRS designation of nonprofit some of these churches enjoy, she may have put it at risk. The National Cathedral at risk by venturing into politics.
That's true. When you do something like that, you rip that off, and then all of a sudden, well, you know what? You lose that charitable thing, and really, I wouldn't really punish the church so much as I would punish her for it, because she does have that status that she is tax exempt. Well, sorry, but that doesn't hold true with the way that she is conducting herself.
The other thing that happened, I wanted to mention before we forget, we were promised, not promised, but it was said to us in an interview with Finnerty, Dr. Stephen Greer talked about some announcement was going to be made with regard to the aliens and things like that. And it was supposed to happen before the inauguration. Well, it was crickets. I didn't hear anything. But yesterday I did hear that Trump is going to, in the coming days, make an announcement about what those drones were doing. The real reason for the drones. That's going to happen. So, I don't know. Maybe that's connected. I don't know. But
I don't know. There's so many balls in the air. I'm not going to call them. I'm just going to wait to find out what they are. I mean, it's not a balloon from China, I don't think, but what is going on with the drones, I don't know. And every day is a surprise. I mean, I woke up this morning, at 5 o'clock to hear, the temperature outside, and another massive fire broke out in Los Angeles or in California. And, and I'm sitting there going, how many weeks now has it been that L.A. is burned or Los Angeles, Southern Cal has been on fire?
Well, I mean, maybe they already have this, but you would think that just about every fire department in the world would be sending a crew to put that fire out. You would think that there'd be fire companies from Nevada, Utah, Arizona. Maybe they're there. I don't know, but there'll be a full court press happening right now.
There's so many pop-up fires, they're not getting them under control. Why? And then when it seems like, okay, I think we got it, 15, 20% under control, wham! Here comes another big one.
Could it be that they're being set, Bill?
Well, yeah. What is the ultimate goal here? Let's
Chaos.
just cut the chase and say what?
Chaos,
yeah. But, let's just cut the chase and get to it. And what is the end result going to be? We know it's got to be rebuilt.
Right.
But we need to get to the bottom of how these fires are being set. It is not all Mother Nature. We'll give her some credit for some of this, but not all of it. We'll give poor hindsight, and neglect. We'll give a major portion to that, but not all of it. There's an agenda in here. Who's in charge of that agenda? And we need to find that out, because once you do that, you might turn off the damn spigot of the fires.
Yeah, Trump is going out, I guess, the end of next week. He's going to go to North Carolina first because he thinks that they've been forgotten, and I think he's right. I think they've been forgotten.
Yeah.
He's going down there to tell the people down there, you're not forgotten, we're going to take care of you, and now we're going to fix you. We're going to get you back on your feet. And I think he's going to throw a lot into that area, too, to get it back on. There are people, can you imagine them being living in tents and temporary housing with the weather we've been having in the country? I mean, just unbelievable. But they are. And then he's going to go out to California, and they're going to, I guess, inspect the area. And I'm sure he'll have an idea there, too. He's an idea guy. He's gonna say, look, here's what we're going to do. We're going to do this, this, and this, and get you back on your feet. We're going to do it right away. Biden was, let's go to Delaware. So anyway, that's what's going on. He is already making an influence in business. In case you haven't heard, the company formerly known as Chrysler, Stellantis, I guess Stellantis bought Chrysler, has announced that they're reopening a plant in Illinois, which will be making the new Durango trucks. I take that back. They're going to be making the trucks in Detroit, okay? Mm-hmm. This is not a coincidence. I guess they had already said that they want to close the Belvedere plant, and that was causing a lot of problems with the unions because a lot of people lost jobs. And it was
no more.
It was a fait accompli. They kind of like, oh, well, it's a done deal. We're losing our jobs. All of a sudden, Trump gets into office, and Stellantis says, wait a second, we're going to build them right here in the U.S. Why? Because it's a favorable business environment. Mm-hmm. It's going to be a welcoming administration that will encourage growth in our country. It's to the benefit of Stellantis to build the cars here and not in Mexico or some other country. So that was announced yesterday. And the other thing that was announced, that they're going to have Mike Johnson. You remember Mike Johnson. Johnson! Yes, Mike Johnson.
We all know where our Johnson is.
Yes. Mike Johnson has said that he's going to start a new January 6th committee to get down to the truth, the facts. So you got to hand it to him. The guy really and truly is he's making things happen. This is only the third day today? I feel like Trump's been in office for years with all the stuff that he's done.
Yeah, the left is having a hard time keeping up with it. They knew the tidal wave was coming. They're trying to hit it with lawsuits. They're going to try to tie up everything. They just want to sit there and derail the train, keep it, slow it down or keep it off the tracks for 4 years.
Yeah.
And in 2 years, they're going to say, see, look, he hasn't done a damn thing yet. You got to vote in Democrats. We got to get this guy out of here. No. What we got to do is make sure that his policies go through. We let Biden do all the destruction.
Yeah.
Well, Biden's not in office anymore. And Democrats, you're not in power anymore. And Republicans, you have a responsibility, and that means John Q. Public, too, is tell the truth. Put the truth out there. When you see a half-truth that's out there, like the birthing right thing, they're going, well, they're going to go back and do all this stuff. No, they're not going back. It's not retroactive. It's from 30 days forward. AOC and what she's going, she's twisting the Constitution, or she doesn't know it herself. Maybe she should pick it up and read it and get a little bit of the history of about what's in it, why it was in there, and when it got in there. She might have a different story.
What's interesting is, in my opinion, we talk about Trump throwing so much stuff out that the media can't keep up. Part of me thinks that's intentional. He's flooding the zone, as they would say. He's just putting everything out there. He said all this stuff is coming out, and the media is having a hard time staying, in the game, which is actually kind of good. And you get guys like Jim Acosta being angry on the air. This is not Fox. This is not Fox, Mr. Representative. Come on. By the way, you haven't got the ratings, Jim, of Fox either. We know it's not Fox. And when Burchett said you haven't got the ratings of the Cartoon Channel, it wasn't a lie. The Cartoon Network has more viewers than CNN right now. All right, Bill, I was going to ask you before we sign off, how does a business, they're talking about CNN repositioning itself and concentrating on the digital world, how does that brand ever get back its respectability again based upon the partisanship they've exercised over the last 5 years?
See, I don't know. They say time heals everything but a leaky radiator. That's one bad radiator that you got there. But again, I think the course of time, I would rebrand the thing. I would change everything. Even if it was an internal ownership shift, just to put on the front that we're different, we're new.
Yeah,
that would be how I'd do it. But
you'd have to etch a sketch just about everybody you have there. You'd have to get rid of every person who's been on the old network, wouldn't you?
Yeah, I would think so. But one thing you got to realize, is that, we have a short attention span and memory span. Like right now, they are bad. And they've been bad, in the recent years. But time will elapse, time will go on, and we will forget. So if they can sit there and just quit the bad deeds, re-image, change people, and move and do the right thing going forward, over the course of time, people are going to forget. New people will grow up. It's like life is like a conveyor belt. You get on, you ride through, and then poop, you're off the conveyor belt. There are new people coming forward. They have to plan for the future, and those yet to be viewers and patrons.
I don't know how
they got to build for.
I think they got to do it from top to bottom, not just on the air, but they've got to change a lot of people behind the scenes who are partisans, who don't know how to do it any other way. Yesterday, it was announced that Whoopi Goldberg and Joy Behar, their contracts weren't going to be renewed. I saw that yesterday in the news. I don't know whether that's true or not, but
I think I've heard that before, and then all of a sudden there they are. But you're right. You got to change the people, and from top to bottom, the best thing they could do is sell the damn thing and say, look, she's an old girl here, but she's a classic. And it's got to have some value for somebody to come in and rebrand and build and give the entity a chance. That would be the way to do it.
Maybe somebody like an Elon Musk with a lot of money could come in and say, okay, I'm going to buy it, but I'm going to pull everything. I'm going to start fresh.
Even in my mind, even Elon would bring, some doubt to it, and the fact that, the left would go, wow, he's a right winger.
Well, he didn't do it with, people, he didn't do it with
No, he didn't, but they still hold it against him because he has chosen sides. So if you could get a fresh investor that really doesn't have a political sway one way or the other, and then they go in with that attitude saying,
let me ask you a question.
Be neutral.
Elon Musk buys CNN, and he hires Tucker Carlson, Bill O'Reilly, Scott Jennings. You keep him; he's a conservative. And let's say you want to. What they can see right now is that the audience is on the right. Whether you like it or not, the audience is on the right, conservatives. Okay, that's where the money is. That's where the audience is. That's why Fox has good numbers. So if you want to grab a chunk of their audience, the first thing you do is you hire some people who are going to be able to do that. The Tucker Carlsons, maybe Megyn Kelly, people who are available, who have an attitude and an opinion, and who are going to make a mark right off the bat. You know, you steal some away from some of the lesser networks. Maybe you get a Rob Schmidt to come over from Newsmax or somebody like that. Greg Kelly, possibly. Pay him a little more money, give him a better contract. They will make a difference right off the bat. Yes, it'll piss off the left, but it will build your base audience, which is the conservative audience. Now you have a strong base audience to build from. And I would dare say that the people who are on the right are more mainstream America than the left. The left are troublemakers and they have an attitude, whereas the right, they have opinions, but they're, hot dogs, apple pie, and American values. And I think that that's something you can build on. I think Fox could do that.
Well, yeah, they all could do it. I mean, I'm not disagreeing with it. It's like saying I got a failing football team. I'm going to go hire the other team. I'm going to suck out all the contracts I can from the good players. That's one way to do it. The other way that I would probably choose myself would be to sit there and say, you know what, we've got a good, strong. They're good and strong. You don't want to interfere with that. I don't want to go left. So I would sit there and say, you know what, I'm going to be center neutral, and it's going to take a little bit of time. But then, because at some point in time, I'm not saying that right is bad, but there will get somebody somewhere will get corrupt, or it'll become that way. And what we need is a voice that keeps both sides honest. Right now, the right is honest, but I would say,
well, I would say it's easier to become. Case in point, Fox. Fox, right after 2020, moved to the left, actually moved to the center. And people were more accommodating. Viewers didn't leave in the droves they could have left in if they had gone to the left. They moved to the center, trying to position themselves as being neutral. Then they realized, well, we can have more of an audience if we get if we go back to the right and get our people who've walked away back to our side of the ledger, and that's what they did. So they moved to the center in 2020, much to the chagrin of a lot of their mainstream viewers. Fired Tucker Carlson, things like that. Then they realized we may have made a mistake, and they started to program conservative programming. Real, Jesse Waters and Laura Ingraham, and they put Hannity on at 9:00, and they attracted a lot of their old viewers back to the network. And I think that CNN could be competitive that way. They could do something like that if they put the money into it, the promotion into it, and the people behind the scenes. The thing is, they've got to really sell it. They have to have a marketing campaign. We're getting back to our roots, maybe getting back to what we've always been, the news leader. CNN, no more partisanship, even if they're a little partisan.
Well, see, now that's what I'm saying. If you just go center, I'm
not saying go center. I'm saying go to the right, but sell yourself as center.
A news leader because they got an opinion.
I'm saying sell yourself as center. You have to have an opinion nowadays.
Well, see, to me,
News Nation has no opinion, and they haven't got the ratings.
They don't have the budget either. And except for a few people saying something about it, and I don't think they have the talent.
They hired Chris Cuomo, and they hired a bunch of old people from other networks. I can't think of who the...
Okay, what is Chris Cuomo? Is he left or right?
He's left.
Okay. So I wouldn't have hired him.
Right. They did. But they tried...
And that's a mistake. So saying, I'm going to have 3 right people over here and 3 left people over here. It's not about whether they're left or right, but we're talking news and
what I'm saying is you can move to the right as a network. If you do it in unison, you don't do it in pieces. You move the whole thing to the right and sell yourself as being center. You can do that. It's more mainstream to be in the right than it is to be a lunatic leftist.
Yeah, I'm not saying be on the left, and but I am saying, yeah, you could do the right thing, but I'm saying for the long term, I would try to sit there and get back to what broadcast. I don't care that you're on the left. I don't care that you're on the right, but when you're here, you have no opinion.
Yeah, that horse has left the barn, I'm afraid, Bill. I think that we live in a country where
because we've sensationalized.
Networks have opinions, and
because they sensationalized what they do.
Well, let me ask you: have you got the money to put into a new network?
Well, I'm not.
No, I'm not saying you personally. I'm saying does anybody have the money to put into a network to take the time to be neutral? You have to have an opinion.
Don't know.
I'm just saying. Hey, listen, we could talk about this forever, but I should point out that we both are in agreement when it comes to the perfect cup of coffee, and that's
true.
Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, a great cup of coffee. Bill has one in his hand right now. Actually, he's raised it to his mouth. There goes a mouthful.
Stuff.
Yes. Right Side Coffee available at rightsideshop.com. Rightsideshop.com. You can get it right now. You say, really? Yes. All you have to do is go to Right Side Shop, singular, rightsideshop.com, and the store pops up. You'll see some of our other stuff. But there you'll see the bottom screen, it'll say Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee, medium blend or medium decaf blend. You'll love it. You'll love it. I mean, it is so good that Juan and Jose, they can't get enough of it. When they're not singing, they're drinking the coffee.
I'm glad it's coffee they're drinking and not anything
else.
No,
they put that they had that a little later on in the day, but in the morning they have Jim and Bill's Right Side Coffee.
Yeah, a little nip in the coffee is not bad, I can tell you. A nice little toddy at night.
Anyway, they're here to sing the jingle.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee.
Wake up on the right side with Right Side Coffee. I guess that's about it. I keep thinking when the show ends, will I have enough to talk about tomorrow? Never a problem.
Well, absolutely. Tomorrow's Friday going into the weekend, so there's going to be a lot of dumps today. There's going to be some dumps tomorrow. Tomorrow night, actually, we always go, well, are we going to get up and do a show on Saturday? And we always do, because that's when the weekend grind kicks in, somewhere around 5 o'clock on Friday. The left was always good at doing their drops in because they knew that, that we talked about news and how things work. Everything is automated on the weekend. They record a 20-minute segment, and it just
one of two things would happen
over again.
One of two things would happen on a news dump on Friday. Either it would get lost, which sometimes was intentional. They didn't want the story to catch any traction, or it would be the story they talked about on all of the news programs all weekend long, and they wanted that. It was never like a middle ground. A lot of stories you put out there, Friday gets lost, and it's done. By Monday, there's something else coming along. But if it was a good story, then you had Meet the Press, Face the Nation, This Week, all of these programs, Special Report, all these programs would have, they would be the topic of conversation. So I think it's interesting, though. President Trump is getting more attacks than Biden has ever had in his entire. They gave Biden such a pass for 4 years. The media did, yet they're on Trump
because
like
the media,
flies on manure.
Because the media is controlled by the left. It's been controlled. It had its opinions were that way, and they have a philosophy. You've said it before. Democrats walk lockstep. And that's both inside the party and outside of the offices and the meeting and everything. Whatever their agenda is, they're going to push it regardless of what the truth is.
Yeah.
And that's what I don't like. I've never liked that about news, left or right. Just give me the story. Let me make up my mind.
Yeah, but unfortunately nowadays that they just don't know how to do that. One question. If Hegseth doesn't get in, who do you think Trump will nominate for Secretary of Defense?
Have no idea, because I think, Hegseth, they have, if they had a real strong contender, and I'm not saying they don't, but I'm just saying if they did, they would have just sat there and said, you know what, let's not fight this battle. Let's go in with,
Well, I think that they have to fight it now. Otherwise, they look like they can push Trump around.
Right.
It has to go to a vote. But
it's got to go to a vote.
If he doesn't win, I'm thinking, would a guy like General Flynn be a possibility?
I don't know. Well, what would the left have against Flynn?
They'd go after Flynn, saying, well, he was pardoned by Trump in the first administration. The fact that Lieutenant Flynn was Mike Flynn was Lieutenant General Mike Flynn was a lieutenant general, that should have a lot of weight. He was also, I guess, the head of national intelligence.
But here's where the left would come in and say, because if I were on the left, what I would say is well, Trump himself said, when somebody is pardoned and you take a pardon, it's an admission of guilt. So that would be their big cry right there on a Flynn. Hegseth should get through, because what's happening is, again, you've got tainted media that's sitting there going, well, here's another allegation. But they're not telling you that, okay, it's already from the get-go been proven wrong. Don't talk about that.
Yeah.
Talk about this, the taint, or what the smear tactic. Let's sell the smear. Forget about the truth.
Yeah.
And that's the crap that needs to stop in the media as a whole.
Yeah, it's going to take a while. It's hard to teach an old dog new tricks.
If you can't prove it from the get-go, then it's not a story, because it's not fact. You shouldn't be allowed to report fiction. If you cannot substantiate a story, that should not happen.
Right. Well, I'm looking at the clock on the wall. We've done it again. Hey, look we will be back. If you like this show, relax. We'll be back tomorrow. We got another great show coming up on Friday, and hopefully we'll probably have, like Bill said, a show on Saturday too, because we're a glutton for punishment. But with that, my friend, I'm finished. It's a wrap. I'll let you take us out of here like you normally do.
I will do that, sir. Wait, I got to get a sip of coffee. Hang on.
Oh, listen.
Oh, yeah. It makes me just want to go, I got to go get some more coffee. So until then, hasta la vista, baby. We're out of here.
This is CRN America.